everyone. I, MS Devashri, student of Delhi Metropolitan Education, welcome you all to the day 2 of this 2-day symposium on decoding the Union Budget 2022 to 2023. I also welcome all our viewers who are watching us live on Facebook. I would like to take a moment and introduce Delhi Metropolitan Education to our viewers. Delhi Metropolitan Education, DME, is an A-grade premier educational institute affiliated to Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University, New Delhi, and approved by the Bar Council of India. The institute offers BBA, BA LLB, BBA LLB with BCI approval and BA JMC programs. DME believes in imparting world-class education to its students while training them to develop and enhance their skills. This education and training enables them in taking up challenges of the industry and creating space for themselves with their competence and vigor. DME Media School is one of the most promising media institutes in the country. It offers BA in journalism and mass communication. It is recognized as a school focused on growth of its faculty and students through academic and co-curricular activities. Major flagship events and initiatives of the school include BJ Varghese Lecture Series, Peer-to-Peer FDP, International Film Festival SIFI, International Conference ICANN, and Vritika Convention of Media Students and newly added in the list, VIS Vibrant India Series. As a tradition, DME Media School organizes this 2-day symposium on Union Budget so that the students can understand various aspects of the budget and understand the contemporary economic developments in the country. On day 1 of the symposium, Professor Dr. Amrish Saxena, Dean DME Media School, and Mr. Vikram, Assistant Professor DME Media School, sensitized students with the budgetary process and the budget 2022 to 2023. Today, on the second day of the symposium, we have expert Dr. Sharat Kohli, founder and chairman of KCC Group, to address us. I now request Professor Dr. Amrish Saxena, Dean DME Media School, to address the gathering.
Thank you, Devashri. So today is the second day of this symposium, as Devashri said, and today we have gathered here to listen to Dr. Sharat Kohli, because whatever layman's understanding we have, the teachers and the students, so that is how we conducted the yesterday's session, and whatever was there on the face of it in the budget, all that we discussed and all, but then we are supposed to go further deep to understand the finer aspects of the union budget, and there can be no better person than Dr. Sharat Kohli to speak on this. He is a very prominent face on radio, on television channels and other platforms, and the program that I do on All India Radio, Market Mantra, so he is a regular expert there. So and he has expertise in almost everything related to economy or any related issues. So we are very grateful to him that he accepted our request to be here today and to give some understanding of the budget and the related issues to our students. So without wasting any time, we would like to listen to him. Over to you, Devashri.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to take this opportunity and introduce the audience to the guest. The multifaceted and versatile Dr. Sharat Kohli is the founder and chairman of KCC Group, a multidisciplinary advisory group comprising 15 companies. His personality is reflected in various titles which he has been bestowed with, like Startup Guru, Tax Guru, Finance Guru, by sections of both print and electronic media. He is a dual CA from India and the UK. Besides being a management and law graduate, he is also an alumnus of Harvard University. With over 120 awards and honors to his credit, he is a regular panelist with over 70 TV news channels and is known for his talk shows and fiery debates on business and economic issues. He has done over 1,300 shows till date. The session would also be followed by Q&A session moderated by Mr. Vikram, Assistant Professor, DME Media School. I request the audience to post their questions in the chat box. I now request Dr. Sharat Kohli to take the session forward. Over to you, sir.
Well, thank you so much, Delhi Metropolitan Education, the management, the students, the conveners of this particular symposium, whosoever is behind this wonderful initiative. Although personally speaking, I'm not a great fan of these virtual interaction. I would have loved to come over to your institution if the situation permitted, but understandably, this has been the way of life for 2 years now, and starting from the Prime Minister down to students, I think everybody is getting used to it more and more, and we just getting used to not being able to shake hands with each other. Never mind, so be it. And I think let's try and make the best use of the technology that we have at hand. So I was glad to listen to when you were talking, Ambrish, that you had already a day where you have touched upon the the budget little bit, and you probably wanted to dive deeper into it. So that gives me some solace that some kind of understanding is already there, and I don't need to really go into the points and maybe behave like Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman by touching upon everything and announcing it like I was speaking in the parliament, where it was touch and go of everything. As I said just before we started, Amrish, I would love the sessions because budget is a vast document. It's a huge document. Although we saw one of the shortest speeches in the last 4 or 5 years when Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman got up to speak, we saw a little over 1.5 hours and it was all over. But mind you, the budget is huge. It's vast. It's about 39 lakh crore rupees for the country. Lots of announcements, multiple areas touched, multiple numbers revealed, lot of allocations, lot of hoo-halla in the parliament, people trying to interrupt somebody, the ruling benches applauding the thumping of the desk. So the budget is huge, budget is vast. So therefore, I requested that it is better if the situation is, if the whole, a session is interactive, and you ask more and more questions so that I can probably dwell upon the areas which you want to know rather than my touching upon the entire budget. But definitely, as Ambrish said, and rightly so, I'll give a 10 or a 15-minute, brief of overall the overview of the budget, shall I say, the main focus areas, and then of course you can put up your questions, and I can be very specific in my answers to those areas. Am I audible properly? Is it
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
is
Yes.
it fine to everyone? All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the main takeaways of the budget, as far as I am concerned, as an economist, was the infrastructure spending of the government of 7.5 lakh crores. After the pandemic, the world over, I think the economic order had changed, and there was a paradigm shift in the way we were before. And I think in so many ways, this pandemic has changed the world forever. There's so many things which are never going to go back to the same, and things will never be the same. I think it's a changed world order, just the way 9/11 happened in the year 2000, and the world changed. I think 2001 rather. I think the world is again in for a change, and majorly different from the way it was before. So I think after the pandemic, the economies were in doldrums. We saw across the world, from developed economies to emerging economies to developing economies, just about everyone struggling to survive, I would say, not just fight a slowdown. So in that time, I think it was a challenge before the government to bring out a budget where it had to do a tightrope walk in terms of fiscal prudence, the fiscal discipline to be maintained. You must be aware there is something called FRBM, the Fiscal Responsibility Budget Management Act 2003, if you've heard of that. Under this, the government is supposed to maintain a fiscal deficit in a certain target range and has to stick to that discipline. I mean, government cannot just go on spending endlessly and let its fiscal deficit go haywire. So therefore, I think so. The Fiscal Responsibility Budget Management Act, the FRBM. I mean, I remember on a few channels I said, for the time being, just call it, forget responsibility business management, because this is not the time to look at fiscal deficit. Nobody's going to look at your fiscal deficit, because some of the best investors across the nations, I think they understand and they know what the situation is. And I think it was counting on the mind, not that because I said, it was counting on the minds of the government also. We saw fiscal deficit in the year 2021 shooting up to as high as 10-11%, if you include states also as high as 15-16%. And finally, the government did manage to, because of boosted revenues, did manage to bring it down to about 6 to 7%. where probably it stands now. But if you include the states, we are still quite high on fiscal deficit. So the challenge was spending. So the biggest takeaway, as I said, was 7.5 lakh infrastructure spending. As you know, government is committed to the national infrastructure pipeline of 100 lakh crore, which is about $1.5 trillion to spend on infrastructure. And that is why, you know, when we used to travel to these foreign countries, the biggest difference we noticed from India was the infrastructure. When you land in a developed world, in some part of Europe or America, you will find that the roads are neat and clean, the buildings are all lined up, everything is systematic, very crisp, clear. I mean, there are trains which run on time, the bus stations look like airports, so I think the need for infrastructure as far as India is concerned, especially after the government gave out this Nara of $5 trillion economy, I think infrastructure was indispensable. You can never become a developed nation, never become a developed nation, never reach the goal of a high GDP of $5 trillion plus, unless your infrastructure is in place. So I think keeping that in mind, government launched the NIP, the National Infrastructure Pipeline, and the 7.5 lakh crore spending target which has been set is basically in line as part of that announcement. Be it roads, be it bridges, be it airports, be it ports, be it provisioning of water, provisioning of electricity, so on and so forth, house building. I think infrastructure across the country, it was the need of the hour. And you must be knowing that there are four engines of any economy. I hope you're aware there are four engines. First is public spending, engine number one, which is called government spending. Second comes private investment. Third comes private consumption. You know, India is primarily a consumption-driven economy with about 60 to 65% of GDP coming from the fact that when we go and buy at the shops for consumers. And fourth engine is exports. So engine number four had started firing. Exports were firing we're targeting about $400 billion. Engine number two and three were not firing. Two was definitely not firing. That is private investment. The industrialists were not making investment for last 2-3 years because of the slowdown. And private consumption, we all know that consumer confidence was low because people were saving for future. They were not spending freely because those were the challenges before the government. I think the budget was brought around with those objectives. Although I would say that no document is perfect, no budget is perfect. There are some hits, there are some misses, and so is this budget. I mean, they probably missed out on demand resumption, immediate demand resumption, but what they made a mark was on supply resumption because of the spending. So spending was one. The second big takeaway was, the digital push, which is I think extremely important in the current situation, whether it was digitalization of agriculture, bringing in technology in agriculture, setting up of digital banking units, in 75 districts, or it was the biggest announcement, I would say, which you would realize next year, is digital money, which is the digital rupee. Well, you will find that we will move into a completely new era, and RBI has been experimenting on this for the last, I would say, 1 year plus on introducing digital money, when you will see these currency notes and coins someday, not immediately, someday becoming a thing of past, and you would probably be dealing between your phones by using those codes and blockchain technology. You will be exchanging money by transferring from one phone to the other. Now, somebody can ask me, this is happening in case of wallets, this is happening in case of online banking also. No, there is a difference, because you don't need an intermediary in a digital rupee. So that, to my mind, was the second biggest announcement as far as the budget is concerned. Then the whole push for technology, whether it was education, whether it was health, whether it was agriculture, anything where technology was being induced, I think is in for the next level of growth. So many announcements made when it comes to taxation. We saw some very limited taxation related announcements coming in terms of some kind of rationalization being done, some kind of stability being brought in the taxation, when the personal taxation rates were left untouched. Something done for women as well, something done for, as I said, education as well, something done for irrigation as well, something done for the rural India. I think there was a big push required for agriculture, where 60 to 70% of our population lives or directly or indirectly depends upon agriculture. And with the 3 farm laws being reversed, I think the government there were also elections around the corner, although they say good politics is bad economics and good economics is bad politics. So the second one, they said, were held true because nothing major was done for the middle class, or there was a lot of schemes for poor and farmers. But then nothing major came up for the middle class by way of tax relief, although the government says that all the announcements eventually will trickle down to middle class, the lower middle class, and the poor for that matter. So all in all, I mean, the budget scored well in terms of a 360-degree approach on the supply side. But when it came to boosting the demand directly, directly putting money in the pockets of people to step up the demand, I think that is where probably the budget was found a little lacking. If I may sound critical on the budget, but overall, I think a 39 lakh crore budget, as far as the country is concerned, was a very tough call for the finance ministry, because especially after the 30 lakh crore plus liquidity announcements made in Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan last year. So there was a constraints of the funds which the government was facing. And in that situation, and in those kind of situations, I think it was a tough call. And I think not a bad job has been done by way of, if we look at some of the other, the blueprint was given for India at 100. And I think that was another big takeaway from the budget, that the starting of the Amrit Kal, they said that the Amrit Mahotsav, that India turning 75 this 15th of August. So I think a blueprint, a vision has been laid that how India will look the way it is after 25 years, that is in 2047. What is the vision that the government has? I think the government tried to present that vision, that we want to see that 50% of the population would be living in urban areas. We will move gradually from agriculture to urban areas, tier 2, tier 3 cities, to develop tier 2, tier 3 cities, so that this migration does not happen. So there were a lot of aspects which were touched in bits and pieces. But if you see the whole budget document, you will get the details of allocations made to the various sectors. As I said, the biggest allocation was the infrastructure, which is the biggest takeaway of the budget. And we must keep in mind one more aspect before I open the house to questions, that I personally feel that this budget is not the way it used to be. You remember the earlier budgets, for the people who've been following budgets, especially the teachers who've been watching budgets for a long time. Budget used to be about sasta mehnga. What becomes cheap, I remember a day before the budget a few years ago, people used to go and buy edible oil, sugar, tea, coffee, kal mehnga ho jayega, the moment announcements come, But I think that is a thing of past, because the GST tampering is now left to GST Council. So the budget, apart from some custom duty tinkering, some textiles were made cheaper, leather goods made cheaper, electronics made cheaper, some custom duties in the budgets. If you see the part B and C of the speech, they have been rationalized. A little bit of cost, difference would be there. But primarily, I feel the budget is just another milestone, because this particular government, if you would all have noticed, last to last year, there were about 7 to 8 to 9 budgets announcements. All these Atmanirbhar announcements, they sounded like budgets. Well, there was an English version, then there was a Hindi version being given by Mr. Anurag Thakur, who was the then finance minister of state, and then the finance minister speaking in English. So you remember those press conferences? They were about 7, 8. So I feel that the government does not consider budget as end of the world. So my perception is that budget is just another document, and I would not be too surprised if in the months to come, for the remaining part of, or rather for the full 12 months of the next fiscal year, you might hear more budget type announcements, or I would say announcements which are normally included in the budget, because we've seen that happening in the last 2 years. So my message is that the budget is just another milestone. It is no more a once in a year event, which used to take place for a number of years, if you look at our history of parliament. So you might come across a more smaller budget announcements, or maybe even larger, depends on the situation. And so the government is quite open to making such announcements. And this is just another milestone. So, I can just go on and on for rest of the day, and we have limited time at hand. So as I said, I would love to answer your questions, love to answer your doubts. rather than giving you a lecture on budget, which I'm sure you can find a lot of them on YouTube, in your online sessions. I mean, every Tom, Dick, and Harry wants to speak about budget. So I think I would rather prefer answering your questions. So I open the house, Ambrish, and
Yeah.
to please come forward and ask freely. Do not hesitate. Don't worry if you're criticizing the government. Don't worry if you're praising the government. I come from a very neutral background. I sit in television debates with the Congress and the BJP, and I speak as an expert. I don't bother about BJP, neither do I bother about Congress or any other party. Just be critical, and I will give you a very fair view on that.
Yeah. Thank you, Sharaji. We know that the kind of opinion that you express, it's very much factual, logical, and reason-based. That is why people love you so much as an expert.
Thank you so much.
So Vikram, do you have any questions? If you're moderating the questions, or I would even ask the students to open their camera and ask the questions if they wish so, or else Vikram, you can pick up the question from the chat and ask those questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Sharath, sir. Thank you so much for your expert view on the budget. So,
Good
sir,
afternoon.
sir, I have a question which is being discussed around quite a few places. So, I just want to say it. Sir, student Aditya Singhal has been asking, what are Indian government's plan on the cryptocurrency as such, and has finance minister not in a way legalized them by taxing them as considering to be digital assets? So, sir, what's your view on that?
I was only waiting for this question to come. I thought I was just somehow I had a premonition that this is going to be the first question, and there it comes, because cryptocurrency with over 4,000 currencies across the world, and a population from 21 to 35 years age going crazy about cryptocurrency, trying to become rich overnight in the last decade or so, Bitcoin and Dogecoin and Ethereum and Ripple, and the list goes on and on as far as cryptocurrency is concerned. No, the announcement in the budget is basically what was happening was that the people were making money on crypto over the last several years, and because in the income tax laws, there is no definition of crypto. I mean, there is something called a capital asset, and crypto is not defined anywhere in the list of capital assets. So what people were doing is, it is neither a capital asset. Some were disclosing it in their income, some were not disclosing it in their income. So the government said that we have not regulated it so far. No laws have come to regulate it, to make it as a legalized thing. Neither has it been banned till now. What the government, let me tell you, government point of view, the government is not looking at the whole cryptocurrency business as very, very favorably. It doesn't like it. And for the simple reason, because RBI is the monetary controller of country's currency. And all central banks around the world, for each country, are the regulators, controllers, issuers, printers of the currency. All the minting of the coins is done by the central banks. So no central bank across the world would like any other document, any other asset class, any other instrument to be called as a currency, first of all. So so if you paid attention to the speech made by the finance minister in the parliament, she used the word digital virtual asset. And when she did the press conference in the same evening, some journalist asked her that, does this cover crypto? So she said, I didn't name crypto. I never said crypto. We are talking of digital virtual asset. However, crypto falls within the definition of digital virtual asset. So what they have done is that the people who are making money and not paying taxes, by the way, if they are not paying, then 30% tax should be paid on the profits made. But that does not mean that we are legalizing or naming crypto as a valid asset class, as a valid currency here. By no means are we recognizing crypto, but profits being made must be declared for taxation, and tax should be paid. At the same time, I mean, since you have spoken about this question, I would also like to touch upon the other aspect which I just said during my introductory part, which is CBDC, the central bank digital currency, is being introduced in the coming year, and you will see notes and coins being replaced by, I mean, not replaced, you can continue to do in notes and coins, because in this country, the penetration of mobile phone internet is not 100%. So therefore, you cannot suddenly take out, you cannot have a demonetization of notes and currencies. And, I mean, the government doesn't want to risk another demonetization. So it will be parallelly introduced. So you will have your money lying in your mobile phone. You want to pay 500 rupees to somebody, take out your mobile phone, pick up the 500 note you have, toss it over to the person whom you want to transfer. And the transaction is done. No cash exchange, no bank used, no Paytm used, no UPI used, no Google Pay used, no intermediary used. Simply the money moves from, and this is not an asset class. This is a simple currency. Some people were saying government is introducing its own crypto. No, that is not crypto. Crypto is an algorithm based mining technique, a mathematical formula which is generated out of a computer by using an algorithm. And there is a code. Once the code works, a coin is generated. That is crypto. Whereas a digital currency is simply digital version of the notes and coins. It is digital, and Beijing Olympics are going on in China. And you'll be surprised to know that they have already introduced the Chinese yuan, the digital yuan, which is working out in the Beijing Olympic. People are exchanging money through digital means. So no. To come back to your question and answer it straightforward, no, it has not been validated yet, and the government is not keen to recognize it as a currency. Maybe it is recognized as an asset class, but right now only pay tax. And government says we are not fond of this particular instrument.
Thank you, Sharaji, because this was a question when we were having interaction with the students yesterday on this. I mean, particularly the way you explained digital currency. Even I was not very clear, so I said I am not able to clarify this. Sharaji will be able to clarify this.
Ambrish, I can tell you a little more about CBDC since you touched. Oh, I'm glad you discussed yesterday. Yeah. Now somebody asked me what is the advantage of. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you there. Somebody asked me what are the advantages of these digital currency. I mean, how is this different from a note? See, if you see the cash to GDP ratio of our country, it is massively high. We have about 25 to 30 lakh crore of currency circulating in the country. Look at the cost of printing them. Look at the cost of minting coins. I think all this would be gone once there is very important aspect came in the discussion, Ambrish, that when I'm keeping my money in my phone in a digital form, do I need a bank? Well, yes and no. No, because I don't need to keep my money in the bank just for the sake of keeping. Yes, because if I want interest on my money by way of a fixed deposit or by way of a savings account or by way of any other banking deposit, yes, I would keep. So the role of banks would be limited in that case. So I think this digital currency, this announcement looks very small. CBDC announcement looks very, very small, just a one-liner or a two-liner with the finance minister said. But I'm telling you, this is a watershed announcement, and I think this is something which you have never experienced before. Money lying in your phone without any intermediary. And the best part is it will check all the illegitimate activities, Ambrish, which happen through cash, drugs, drug peddling, smuggling, human trafficking, money laundering, any illegitimate activity which is connected with cash, black money. It will be very hard because the CBDC is based on blockchain, which is an open ledger. I give you a 2,000 rupee note, Ambrish. You keep it in your pocket. Tomorrow you give it to somebody else. You buy something, you pay to somebody else, say a shopkeeper. That shopkeeper pays to his supplier. The 2,000 rupee note goes there. That supplier gives it to somebody else. That somebody else gives it to somebody else. Now that 2,000 rupee note which you have in your pocket, has had a long journey. We don't know how many hands this 2,000 rupee note has changed. Do we know? No, we don't know. The 2,000 rupee note doesn't speak that how many places I have been to, how many wallets I have been to, how many homes I have been to, how many tijoris I have been to, and so on and so forth. Whereas in case of CBDC, that 2,000 rupee note will be able to speak that, look, I was born in so-and-so, and then I was brought up in the hands of so-and-so. I stayed in so-and-so's home for so long. Then I moved to so-and-so place. That person tossed it over to me in one day. The other person kept me for 3 months. So there is going to be a trail of money since the time it is issued. So imagine how this trail can be useful, because all the vices attached to cash are because there is no trail of cash. So this is what I wanted to add to what you're saying. Yes, Amrish, please.
Yeah, thank you. Vikram.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for explaining in such great detail the differences between cryptocurrencies and digital currency, which government is planning to roll out. Sir, I have another question, which is more of a general sort of question regarding startups, since we have been seeing government is propagating the whole startup environment. So Gaurav Bharadwaj has asked us a question. Sir, when there is less investment by the private companies and the large corporations, then why is government forcing the youth for startup? So this is
Well,
Gaurav wants to know.
the answer to the question, Gaurav, lies in your question itself. When if you see, you ask, I mean, if I'm trying to recollect the words, when the government is not making investment, is that what you said? Will you repeat the question, Vikram? I see the answer there itself.
So when there is less investment by the private companies, then why is government forcing the youth to go into the startup environment?
So when there is less investment by the private companies, why is the government? In fact, there are two aspects. One, there is a hidden answer within the question. Because there is less investment by private companies, there is need for more startups. And the second way I can look at your question is that the two things are also in a way unrelated. Because startups, what is a startup? Startup is starting a business. So when you start a business, and as far as funding of startups is concerned, Gaurav, funding is done by angel investors, funding is done by HNIs, funding is done by venture capitalists, funding is done by fund of funds which Government of India has created, funding is done by your friends and relatives, funding is done by your family. Very little of funding, Gaurav, comes from Indian business houses. They very rarely, of course, there are few exceptions. I know Mr. Ratan Tata, who has a separate allocation for investing in startup. There are a few other business houses who have interest in these small startup funding, but otherwise private business investment has got nothing to do with startup, because startup is a very small way where somebody starts a business, and you can start with your own seed money, you can take help of your friends, you can take help of your family, you can do crowdfunding, you can also do cloud funding. There are cloud funding and crowdfunding are different things now. You can look at an angel investor, you can look at a high net worth individual, you can look at a venture capital, and hundreds of billions of dollars have been invested in the Indian startups over the last few years. And therefore I think the Indian startup and the number of unicorns which have been built in the last 42 unicorns in the year 2021. You know what a unicorn is? 7,500 crores, and you are declared as a unicorn in terms of the valuation of the startup. So I think government also believes that from the job seekers, you should become job givers. And I think Indians have an entrepreneurial mind. We are now world's third largest startup ecosystem after America and China, by the way. So therefore, private investment, Gaurav, or no private investment, startups are here to stay. And I would suggest all the students listening to me that once before you start looking for a job, I repeat, at least once before you start looking for a job, always consider if there is anything in you which can make you start on your own. अगर आप कुछ अपना शुरू कर सकते हैं, उससे अच्छी कोई घटना नहीं होगी आपकी जिंदगी में. If you are on your own, and in the next few years you will find that you started giving employment to people. So startup is a beautiful thing which is happening. I've been a startup mentor, and Hindustan Times and Times of India gave me the title of startup guru. I mentor about 300 startups, and I think it's an amazing thing which can happen to somebody, and it can bring to reality your dreams which you have for yourself. Yes.
Vikram.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for encouraging students if they are interested into startup. So students and others, those who are interested, can take that note. Sir, I have another question. I'm clubbing two questions by Vedant Thakur and Shiv Dhawan. Sir, they want to understand. Sir, the salaried class had high expectations from this budget, and they were also expecting a reduction in the income tax. What is your viewpoint on that?
Well, sorry, what is the name of the person asking?
Sir, Shiv and Vedant.
Shiv and Vedant. Wow, I think the names seem to be coming from Shiva and Vedant are connected spiritually as well. So both to Shiv and Vedant, I was expecting the same as far as the finance minister and the announcements were concerned. But I think the government has taken a different route. Government believes that let us not tinker these tax laws every year. ये जैसे इनको पड़े रहने दो. And you know the number of taxpayers in the country, Shiv and Vedant, who actually pay tax. You'll be shocked to know, in a population of 137 crores, I'm told we are 137 crore, although somebody told me you can never speak correctly about this population because the moment you speak a number, it has already gone up. So 137 crore people, can you believe only 1.5 crore people actually pay tax? I'm saying again, only 1.5 crore, which is just about little more than 1% return. People who file the return are 7/8, are about 7 crore plus, but they are filing nil returns. So actual taxpayers, only 1.5 crore. So I think this must have been on finance minister's mind. कि बात 1.5 करोड़ लोगों की है ना, हो जाए नाराज होते हैं तो I mean the number is so small, but I think the government has taken the path of stability, that they don't want to tinker. And when a journalist asked her the same question, Shiv and Vedant, that there were so many expectations of salaried people, why didn't you do something? She said, shukar karo ke badhaya nahi. Say thank you to me that I did not put any new taxes. This was the answer given by her. Well, I may not subscribe to that answer because I thought that that was a bit of jale pe namak chhidakna. But having said that, I think the government wants to keep things stable. They don't want to fiddle with the tax laws again and again. And I think with the elections in 2024, you might see some fireworks on the tax front, probably when the government presents its last budget, or probably government has a new taxation system on its mind, which is why it does not want to tamper with the existing tax system, that let it go as it is going. We've done enough in the last, from 2014 to 2020, we saw some changes coming here and there, on and off. But I think you're right, for the last 2-3 years, I think the expectations of the salaried people, the expectations of small taxpayers, expectation of women taxpayers, expectations of senior citizens, those expectations have all not come true. And so be it. I wish I could answer your question on what counted, but from what I found, I think the government wants a more stable tax regime and doesn't want to change it again and again.
Thank you so much, sir, for responding on that question.
Sorry,
Yes, sir.
sorry, Vikram. Let
Yes,
me
sir.
interrupt you. Let me interrupt you by I missed saying the concluding remark because Gaurav and Shiv asked about the middle class. तो एक तरीका तो ये है कि जो किसानों ने किया, धरना वरना दे देते हैं मिडिल क्लास बैठ के बॉर्डर पर, इनकलाब जिंदाबाद, लाओ जी आप डिडक्शन. So that could be another way. I don't know any other way how to convince the government on this.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we have another question, which is a more of a general question and a fundamental question from our esteemed colleague Pramod sir. So he wants to understand, sir, the COVID situation crippled the economies around the world, as we have seen, and India too felt the ripples. So do you think, is this budget good enough to bring back the economy on track? And like he also wants to understand, are we even in the right direction?
Well, the answer to your question, Pramod, is yes and no. Yes, because the budget does give a long-term vision. As I spoke in the beginning, the infra spending is a support to pandemic in terms of, because it has got a multiplier effect. Every 1 rupee that we spend on, let's say, road construction, for example, has an 8 times multiplier effect. So every spending, so if 7.5 lakh crore has been the infrastructure commitment, it will have a 60 lakh crore multiplier effect on the economy. From that point of view, as far as your question on pandemic is concerned, yes, the budget will help. But the only problem that I felt where it lagged was it has got a long-term vision. The budget is long-term, because in short term, these schemes, if you see in a ballpark of 6 months to 1 year, you will see not much happening. So when I said no, I meant short term. When I say yes, I mean long term. One of the former prime minister, because this is not a political platform, one of the former prime minister said, in the long term, we are all dead. आप लॉन्ग टर्म की बात करते हैं तो लॉन्ग टर्म में तो आज से 70 साल बाद, 80 साल बाद तो या 100 साल बाद ये स्क्रीन पे हम जितने बैठे कोई भी नहीं होगा. So and they spoke about, he spoke about Amrit Kal, India at 100. I don't know how many of us would be there when India is 2047. आज से 25 साल बाद मुझे नहीं पता हम में से कितने लोग हैं. भगवान आप सबको लंबी उम्र दे. मैं तो कहता हूँ आप इंडिया 200 तक रहो. But at least I'm not sure about myself. So therefore when you talk about long term vision, the budget is good, but in terms of short, so the budget addressed the supply side of the economy. Where the budget missed out was the demand side of the economy, that how to create immediate demand. Immediate demand can be created by giving income tax relief, putting money in the pockets of people directly or indirectly. That would have boosted the demand, which we did not see. So therefore, the answer to your question, Pramod, is yes and no. Yes from long term, no from short term.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is another question which is regarding the Human Development Index. Sir, Yash Joshi wants to understand, sir, how are we putting our Human Development Index at the forefront? As he says that India's rank is 131 among 189 countries of the world. Do you think this budget can help increase India's ranks? Like, can we elevate this rank on the economic platform? So can you respond to that human development aspect?
Well, there is a very, very dire need, I would say, to step up. You very rightly raised the point, Yash, that there is a need to raise the human development index. We are lagging behind, and 60 to 70% of our population still depends directly or indirectly on agriculture. And suppose you are sitting in Delhi, your institute is in Delhi right now. You drive 25 kilometers out of Delhi on any direction. You drive northward, southwards, eastward, westward. You will enter a rural area. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, 25 kilometers बाहर निकलो, आपको गांव या गांव जैसे इलाके दिखने शुरू हो जाएंगे. And the more you drive away, you will find that when you came from the city, it was a different place. But this looks like the way people live, the way people do work, their daily routine, their lifestyle, the way people talk, the way people interact, the families, the culture, the system, the language, everything differs. So I think Human Development Index for this country is a must. There is no doubt about it, which is why the Skill Development Ministry was created a few years ago, although the ministry wasn't the biggest of success as far as the government is concerned. I'm not being critical here, but I think the Skill Development Minister had to be changed. So I think a lot needs to be done on the Human Development Index. And I think Human Development Index has got a direct correlation with our education system. If you want the Human Development Index to develop, you will have to revamp your education system. I still feel that we are far away as far as education system is concerned. Obviously, the Delhi Metropolitan Education College is doing a wonderful job. But otherwise, if you go into the overall education system, and I studied in Harvard, I have studied in the UK. The way those people operate is they prepare you at school or early college for a job. You are trained for a job. You are trained for a job position. But here I find, the government universities and the way the government schools function, they are degree manufacturing factories. I'm sorry to say this, but because if a graduate is struggling to find a job, I think Human Development Index, the first need is there. You need to develop the intellectual skills. Of course, vocational and professional institutes like yours, they are doing a wonderful task. I mean, if you're doing a course in journalism, if you're doing a course in management, you're doing a BBA, you're being trained for business straight away. You're getting a direct training. But look at these other old school courses like BA and BComs and BScs. Tell me, if you're a BA, I mean, what kind of job will you look for? I want an answer to this question. If you're a BA from, let's say, some Timbuktu University, some Meerut University or some university somewhere, Bundelkhand University, Kanpur University, Lucknow University. Tell me you're a BA, what job will you look for? I would love to have an answer to this. And what will you be interviewed as? वो पूछेगा आपको क्या जॉब चाहिए? वो कहेगा पता नहीं साहब कुछ भी रख लो. क्या सैलरी चाहिए सर, जो मिल जाए ले लेंगे. This is what is happening. So this is what I think, this is where human development index needs to grow. And as far as the budget is concerned, I think the only support for human development index in the budget that I could see was the technology push, because technology nowadays has become directly related to human development index. If you bring technology into human development, if you bring technology into different sectors, your human development index moves ahead faster than normal. So that is the only thing I could see. Otherwise, I mean, 200 TV channels for education, skill development ministry upgradation, more allocation of resources to skill development. Those are some of the things that I saw on human development, but it's anybody's guess. And I totally support, yeah, sure, your concern on human development. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Sir, before the time ends, I think I also want to get my chance for asking a question to you. Sir,
Absolutely.
I was just reading today's Indian Express. I found an investigative report by Indian Express that they claim to say that government, especially this is in relation to the projects that government has announced in the budget. It was about the Ken-Betwa River Link project, and there are several other infrastructure projects. So the report says that government itself is flouting its own environment rules, like they are not following their own commitments. And there has been a mention about like 4 priorities that government is planning. So one priority was regarding environment and climate change. Since I am also taking a paper on environment communication, we were discussing with the students. So sir,
Yeah.
can you just can you throw some light on this issue, like how government is looking at this aspect of
You see,
development?
I mean, I don't want to play devil's advocate here, but I'll be very fair in my opinion that the COP26, which happened, recently, government is now committed internationally to go green. Environment is one of the priorities, and if you see in the budget also, there are so many, whether it is the green bit of the budget, I call it the green bit of the budget. So there is an adequate provisioning as far as the green commitment is concerned. And as far as multimodal transport system is concerned, I am told that Ministry of Transport and Mr. Gadkari is personally known to me, and I keep interacting with him on so many issues. He says no transport project multimodal, whether it is sea, air, road, or sea to road, or road to sea, or probably sea to air. We have seaplanes also now flying. So he says no transport project would be undertaken which violates environmental concern. So if a particular newspaper writes, Indian Express, I know it is known for having a critical view on everything. It is the NDTV of the print media, for that matter, as we call it. So therefore, we respect what Indian Express is saying. But the Ministry of Transport, Surface Transport, Shipping is very clear that no transport project, multimodal project would be taken ignoring the environmental concerns. So I think that one sentence should allay your concerns about that they will not do. Baki dekho, thoda bahut, you cannot go green completely. If you go green completely, your development would be checked. Look at China. I mean, the kind of pollution China does, you'll be shocked. The industrial waste there is literally thrown into the rivers. It is thrown on the roadside. It is thrown into the garbage. There is no effort to recycle the waste being done. And China says, tomorrow I'm speaking at another professional platform where I have to focus on this aspect, that no country can develop if it is completely keeping the green concept and environmental concept in mind. Thoda bahut to hoga, but primarily it is counting on the mind of people, and Vikram. And I think the news from Transport Ministry is, don't worry.
नहीं शरद जी, जो स्टोरी है जो इन्होंने विक्रम ने रेफर किया, ये इनकी जो एक्सप्रेस बीच बीच में करता है, ये इन्वेस्टिगेटिव स्टोरी है. इट्स इन ए सीरीज एंड दिस इज अबाउट द वायलेशन. द गवर्नमेंट इज कमिटेड टू लॉट मेनी थिंग्स एज फार एज एनवायरमेंट प्रोटेक्शन इज कंसर्न्ड, एंड देन देयर आर वायलेशंस हैपनिंग. सो स्टोरी इज अबाउट दैट. इन फैक्ट
आप लेके आइए. मैं गडकरी साहब से अगले हफ्ते मैंने मिलना है. आप मुझे दीजिए क्या इसकी रिपोर्ट्स आई हैं, हम इसको मैं टेकअप करता हूं. और बड़ा अच्छी बात है कि आप एनवायरनमेंट पे कंसर्न रखते हैं, और और गवर्नमेंट की पोल खोलने की अगर बात आती है तो हम सीधा ही गवर्नमेंट के पास क्यों नहीं ले जाते इसको। मैंने मिस्टर गडकरी से अगले हफ्ते मिलना है वीकेंड के आसपास। आप मुझे भेजिएगा।
I will send you the link of this.
आप भेजिएगा मुझे लिंक इसका, and I will have a word with Mr. Gadkari. Maybe the top officials of the government are unaware of certain things being done. Sometimes the bureaucracy also plays crook. So I'll take up the issue, as if I can, of course.
Vikram, further.
Yes, sir. So if time is permitting,
Kamil का भी एक issue है.
Yes, sir. I was just about.
Yeah, we have 5 minutes. We have 5 minutes. So any
yes,
more questions?
Sir, another of our learned faculty members, Kamil sir, wants to put up a question. Sir, that finance minister, since we know that budget is made for a year, finance minister has talked about a blueprint of the economy over the Amrit Kal of the next 25 years. Like you have also touched upon that for 2047. How do you see it, sir? And is there any criticism around it you want to share with us? And what is the government thinking about the immediate respite which everyone is looking for throughout the country?
Well, I'll answer to the last part of the question first. Immediate respite was boosting the consumption, putting money in the pockets of people. That was the immediate concern. That is addressing the demand side of the story, which unfortunately was missed out. So there is no doubt about it that it doesn't touch the short-term concerns. Going back to what Kamil sir has asked about, I was doing a debate on the TV the same day. And I said, you're giving an Amrit Kal budget, a 2047 budget, and we are doing it on 1st of February 2022. क्या हम ये समझे कि अब 25 साल तक कोई बजट नहीं आएगा, कि आपने 25 साल का ब्लूप्रिंट दे दिया तो अब बस 25 साल के लिए भैया ये जो अनाउंसमेंट्स की हैं, now these announcements are enough. I think that was the lighter side of it. But coming down to the realm of things, I think announcing the blueprint is that now, because we are left with 25 years to India reaching 100 years, which is really a big milestone as far as the country is concerned. Independent India, although India has got a history of thousands and thousands of years, India is not just 100 years old, India is much older. But taking the British independence as the milestone, India will turn 100. So they are saying that we are laying a blueprint that how India will be. So they said the process of announcement of schemes which will lead to India at 100 is beginning from now. That was the message, and that was the mandate behind कि हम जो India at 100 की जो vision है, हमने आज उसको lay out कर दिया. We have released the blueprint. From now onwards, each budget, each announcement of the government will have a touch of India at 100. So therefore, as I said in the beginning, budget is long term, and budget has got a vision of very long term. There was a need for short term addresses also because the consumer confidence in the country is low. Unemployment is a major problem in the country. I mean, the number of youths and women, especially, who are unemployed is a matter of concern. Jobs are not getting created. So I think you are right, Kamil sir, that there was a need to create jobs on an immediate basis. However, the budget addresses on long-term basis. So people who are unemployed, the message is remain unemployed for some time. You will find a job in the time to come.
शरद जी, एक मैं आपका एक कमेंट चाहता था कि जो बजट में this allocations have been reduced for education and health. I mean, just now you are talking about this Human Development Index and all, and you emphasize on the importance of education. But with less allocation for education, with less allocation on health, and that too in the backdrop of this pandemic, how do you look at this?
Well, education में उनको अमरीश पता लग गया होगा कि दिल्ली मेट्रोपॉलिटन एजुकेशन खूब इन्वेस्ट कर रहा है और बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहा है, तो हमें क्या जरूरत है अब करने की. शायद उनको ये खबर लग गई होगी. Anyway, jokes apart, Delhi Metropolitan Education, I'm sure, is doing a wonderful job anyway. I think, as I said, the government is taking the budget as a milestone. मैं ना अमरीश इस बजट को मैं फाइनल डॉक्यूमेंट नहीं मानता, क्योंकि पीछे हमने आपको याद होगा, there was a corporate tax reduction announcement made about a year or two ago. वो बजट में नहीं आई. 1.5 लाख करोड़ का अनाउंसमेंट कर दिया और बजट के अलावा कर दिया उसको. तो मुझे लगता है कि ये लोग, this government doesn't consider budget to be such a big, create a hype around budget. हम लोगों ने बहुत हाइप कर दी थी, पर कुछ टीवी चैनल्स ने हाइप कर दिया था. सब लोग मीडिया के लोग बड़े हाइप थे, बहुत बड़ा इवेंट है, बहुत तैयारियां थी। मैं एक चैनल पे गया सुबह सुबह, उन्होंने जलेबी समोसे चाय खुले में लगा के पोस्टर्स बना के रखे हुए थे, बहुत तैयारी करके रखी थी। मुझे लगता है गवर्नमेंट इस बजट को वो उतना बड़ा नहीं मानती है, वो उनको लगता है हम कभी भी अनाउंसमेंट कर सकते हैं। तो अगर बात हेल्थ और एजुकेशन की है तो मुझे लग रहा है उसके लिए एलोकेशन आगे भी आ सकती है, पर हाँ यहाँ भी होनी चाहिए थी, नहीं करी। उनको लग रहा है कि शायद हेल्थ के लिए जो पिछले साल कमिटमेंट्स किए थे अभी वही पूरी तरह से जमीनी तौर पे सामने नहीं आया। कुछ उनको लग रहा है कि अब ये पैंडेमिक थोड़ा थोड़ा यहाँ शांत होता दिख रहा है, सबसाइड होता हुआ दिखाई दे रहा है, इसलिए नहीं किया होगा। या उनको लग रहा है वैक्सीन सब आ गई हैं, ये सब आ गया है, चलो अब थोड़ा सा स्लो डाउन हो जाओ। और मे बी देयर इज मोर टू कम, अम्बरीश। आई वुड से, I think I would not like to defend the government by saying कि जितना हो गया काफी है, but maybe there is more to come in the. So this government can anytime call a press conference and start making announcements. So this is not the end of the world, is the answer to your question.
So personally, what do you feel? Whether the sanctity of the budget which used to be there or should continue to be the same? I mean, as an individual person, as an economist, what do you feel? Should this continue or should be not be taken much seriously?
नहीं, मुझे लगता है अमरीश के आई कम फ्रॉम अ स्कूल ऑफ थॉट के देश को जब जब जैसी जैसी जरूरत होती है उस हिसाब से गवर्नमेंट को उसी टाइम एक्ट करना चाहिए। हम सिर्फ 1 फरवरी का इंतजार करें पूरे साल कि कब बजट आएगा तो हमें ये रिलीफ मिलेगा, हम ये सिंपोजियम करेंगे, हम ये सेमिनार करेंगे। मुझे लगता है कि कंट्री को जब जब जरूरत हो, एक ही लैंडमार्क क्यों हो साल में के अनाउंसमेंट्स हो, आप कभी भी कर सकते हैं। और देखा भी गया है पास्ट में कि इन्होंने करा है। तो दिस इज, आई मीन, आई थिंक वी शुड सॉर्ट ऑफ, पार्डन मी फॉर सेइंग दिस, we should sort of underplay this event. And every time there is an announcement, Amrish, we can do a seminar like this. You know what I mean? Why do a seminar? Why discuss on budget when the budget comes? Because there are so many new announcements being made. So you can plan more such symposiums, more such discussions in the years to come. Right. Every time government makes an announcement. So I would, yes, you're right. I mean, I would like to underplay the budget. मैं भी इसको बहुत ज्यादा importance नहीं दे रहा हूँ, इसलिए भी नहीं दे रहा हूँ क्योंकि इस उम्मीद में कि जो चीज यहाँ मिस हुई है शायद आगे आ जाए।
Sir, excuse me, sir, before we wrap up the session, I just want to put a quick question in front of you. You can just answer in short. Sir, there is Vinayak from first year. He wants to know, he has a doubt why the government has also made an announcement in the budget that even if market falls, investors will have to pay tax. So isn't that wrong? So this is the actual question that student has put. So that is why, if you can understand and like you can comprehend what he is trying to indicate.
Vinayak, I don't remember any such announcement. Even if market falls, you have to pay tax. I think you need to, Vinayak, elaborate on what you are asking, because I'm not able to exactly comprehend or relate this to any of the announcements, because taxation से related तो बहुत limited announcements आया था. There weren't too many announcements. And मार्केट के फॉल में टैक्स देना है ऐसा कहाँ आपने दिया? If can Vinayak come on screen?
Vinayak, are you there? But he is confused. I think he would have listened something else and he is not able to actually understand.
Doesn't matter. It happens. But Vinayak, can you come on screen? And I would love to.
Vinayak is there. Yeah.
Vinayak, can I see you? That I would love to have this kind of taxation system, where market falls, you pay tax. देखें कहाँ किसने किया है, कब किया है। Vinayak, आप सामने आइए, आपको तो गवर्नमेंट ढूंढ रही है कि मार्केट गिरेगी आप टैक्स लोगे, तो गवर्नमेंट ढूंढ रही है आपको, ऐसे लोग हमें चाहिए।
I think he's
okay, sir, if you allow me, sir, there are some related questions which what we have already discussed. Like there are few. Sir, Anubhav, Anubhav wants to, sir, know that what about the investors in India, those who have invested in cryptocurrency? Now, because of this new taxation system, if they run away in other countries through that channel, then will not government face a loss on that front? He wants to know
You mean if people run away?
The investors invest on some through some other route, maybe like they're investing through the Dubai channels or from abroad.
उनको तो मैं यही सलाह दूंगा, धीरे बोले, नहीं तो पकड़ लेंगे आपको। ऐसे काम आप अगर स्क्रीन पे बोलेंगे ऑन रिकॉर्ड, अब तो आपका नाम आ गया, आप कहाँ करोगे, आप बच के कैसे जाओगे? अभी तो आपने बता दिया सब कुछ, अब तो फंस गए। Anyway, that was jokes apart. No, I don't think, because see, cryptocurrency is borderless, boundaryless, countryless. there is no border, it's got no domicile, पता ही नहीं. In fact, Bitcoin का आज तक माँ बाप का नहीं पता है. There was a gentleman called Satoshi Nakamoto. They say he was the founder. We don't know if a person by this name exists. Was he ever there? Has he died? Is he still there? Was he actually the person? Nobody knows. So I think a cryptocurrency lies on your mobile phone, and his name is Vinayak. So I would suggest Vinayak कि आप चुपचाप अपना काम करते रहिए, ज़्यादा पूछे पाछे नहीं तो गड़बड़ हो जाएगी.
So by the way, this was Anubhav.
अनुभव just अनुभव अपना अनुभव आप अपने पास ही रखें, ज़्यादा फैलाइए नहीं तो फंस जाएंगे.
Vikram, you should wind up the session now.
Yeah, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Over to you, Devashri, if you want to make the concluding remarks.
Devashri will take it forward. Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for such an insightful session. Now I request Dr. Manasvi Maheshwari, Associate Professor, DME Media School, to give the concluding remarks and vote of thanks.
Thank you, Devashri, and thank you, Sharad sir. Thank you so much for giving so many details. You actually made it simplified for everyone. It was so easy to understand the budget, startups, and the the recent things. And one thing which I really like this, we should not do it like annual budget. It should be a regular thing like government is doing, and we should have regular debates like this. I'm sure students got their answers. And on behalf of DME Media School, I thank you. I thank Professor Amrish Saxena, Vikram sir for conducting this session, and thank you, Devashri, also. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and it was an absolute pleasure being with Delhi Metropolitan Education. My apologies that I could only spare as much time. I mean, I'm going through a very, very hectic schedule. Amrish knows. Yeah. And I would love to be back probably when this virtual thing is off. I would love to come over to your school as and when there is an opportunity, and come and talk to you in more detail and give you more secrets of how to take money from Dubai. Okay. All right.
It will be our pleasure, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir.
All the best. Thank you.